Hello students, today we will learn about buoyancy. So let's start the class. Okay students, have you ever swum in a pool and felt lighter? We know that ships are made up of iron and steel, but it does not sink in water. Why? The answer to all this question is buoyancy. So let's learn what is buoyancy and buoyant force. In order to know about buoyant force, let us do one simple activity. Try to push the bottle towards the bottom of the bucket of water and release it. What do we observe? Does it remain at the bottom? No, we observe that the plastic bottle will start floating. This happens because water exerts force on it and in the upward direction. It is the force that is acting on the bottle in the upward direction. The bottle will start floating. And we call this force as buoyant force. So we can say that the tendency of a fluid to exert an upward force on a body immersed partly or wholly in it is called buoyancy, and the resultant force experienced by the body when immersed in the fluid is known as buoyant force or upthrust. So here we will see how the fluid exerts an upward force on the object. When we try to push, the water is exerting an upward force. So the buoyant force depends on two factors. First, volume of the object immersed in the liquid and the density of the liquid. Why object floats or sinks when placed on the surface of water? When we place any object on the surface of water, two forces act on the object. First is the gravitational force of the earth in downward direction, and second is the upthrust or buoyant force, and it acts in the upward direction. If the gravitational force is greater than the buoyant force, the object sinks. If the gravitational force is equal to the buoyant force, the object floats. And if the gravitational force is less than the buoyant force, the object floats. So these are the three conditions. Now there is one more term, density, we can define as mass of unit volume of that substance, or in other words we can say that mass per unit volume of a substance is called density. In order to calculate the density of the substance, we require mass of the substance and the volume of the substance. Now float and sinking of an object in terms of density of the object and liquid. If the density of the object is greater than the density of liquid, the object sinks. If the density of the object is less than the density of the liquid, the object floats. We know that wooden cork floats on water and iron nail sinks. Why? Because the density of wood is less than density of water. So the wooden cork floats. On the other hand, density of iron is greater than density of water. Hence, the iron nail sinks. Now Archimedes' principle. When an object is immersed wholly or partly in fluid, it suffers an apparent loss in its weight. And this apparent loss in the weight is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the substance. Here, when we try to take the weight of an object in air, we find it is 5 kg. When we immerse the object inside the water, it will displace some amount of fluid which we have collected here, and it is observed that when it is immersed in the fluid, the weight decreases to 3 kg and the fluid that we collected weight 2 kg. So it shows that when the object is immersed, it lost the weight, and this loss of weight is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the object. So we can state that when a body is immersed fully or partly in a fluid, it experienced an upward force that is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by it. According to Archimedes' principle, when an object is immersed in the fluid fully or partly, the liquid exerts an upward force on the object, and this amount of force is equal to the weight of the liquid displaced by the fluid. Now, so we can say that if the weight of the object is greater than the amount of fluid displaced, the object will sink in that liquid. However, if the weight of the object is less than the amount of liquid displaced, the object will float. The ships are generally heavier than water, but it has a unique shape, so its volume is larger. So their volume is larger than their weight. Hence, the water displaced by the ship provides an upthrust, and because of this upthrust, the ship generally floats. And the submarines also have a buoyancy tank. Whenever the submarine needs to go inside the water, it needs to increase the weight. Similarly, whenever the submarine wants to appear above the water, it generally empties the tank, and so the weight of the submarine becomes lighter and it rises up the water. Application of Archimedes' principle. It is used in designing ships and submarines. It is used in determining relative density of substances. Hydrometer is used to determine the density of liquid. It works on this principle. And lactometer used to determine the purity of milk, also based on this principle. So it is because of this principle that ship is made of iron and steel, floats in water. However, a piece of iron nail sinks in it. Thank you.